Everyone likes to maintain their personal bubble, but what if that maintenance meant a little bit of free diving? Take a deep breath, strap some air to your thorax, and dive down to the depths of knowledge with us as we explore a certain spider's underwater world where it's eat or be eaten. We don't mean to burst your bubble, but that's just what you expect in life, death, and taxonomy.
Welcome back to Life, Death, and Taxonomy, your 30 minutes of interesting animal info. I'm Joe.
I'm scared. You scared me with your loud voice.
Uh-huh.
I'm Carlos.
It's called projecting.
Oh, did it again.
Oh, I should be back here then.
Yeah, there we
farther
go.
away from your ear holes. And today, we're going to talk about a little animal I like to call the diving bell spider, or some other people refer to it as the water spider.
Or Arachnus terrifyingus.
Speaking of binomial nomenclature, let's find out where this guy weighs in.
Oh, is that a little bit of coy foreshadowing?
Oh, it might be.
Okay, all right.
Kingdom, Animalia,
I guessed that one.
as is a given. As that is a given. Phylum, Arthropodia, EUA. Or I don't think you pronounce the E.
Urarthropoda?
Urarthropoda, probably.
Like it's an arthropod from Europe.
Yes. It does look like Europe in the beginning of the word. Subphylum, Chelicerata. I'm going with that.
That sounds like a delicious Mexican dish.
It does. It sounds like a churro with cheese on it.
I was thinking more like was ciabatta? That's like
bread.
That's kind of bread.
Yeah.
All right, whatever.
It's like a bun.
Continue.
Class, Arcanida. Our Canada.
Okay.
Our Canada.
So we have Europe and Canada.
Archnida, really, is Arachnida. Duh. It's Arachnida.
Wow. You butchered that one.
And then order is Aranae.
That's the one that has an AEA.
Aranae, you think?
Something like that.
Araniae.
Yeah, that's what I came up with.
Yeah, maybe. Family is Cybeidae. Cybeidae. With a C.
Genus.
Yes. Genus is Argyroneta. And it's the only member of this.
This is one of the harder ones that we've ever done.
It is. It's pretty hard. There's a lot of Y's.
And a lot of AEAI stuff.
So Argyroneta, this spider is the only living member, the last of its genus, and the only of its genus, as far as I know. And then species Aquatica.
That one's an easy one to pronounce.
I'm familiar with that selection of letters.
That order of letters makes sense to me.
Uh-huh.
Darn Latin. How come there can't be people around to tell us how this stuff is pronounced?
There probably is.
No, nobody knows.
But on where I was looking, it didn't have the little pronunciations.
It's because nobody knows.
Nobody knows. You're right.
We're going to find out that there's a lot that people don't know about this spider, which inspires me to become a zoologist, just to look at things through microscopes and figure it out. Because that's how they do that, right?
I suppose so.
All right.
Also, maybe just asking him.
The spider?
Yeah.
So what's up with your whole, deal?
So, you're asking me what... Oh, you're asking the spider.
I'm asking the spider.
Why are you called Aquatica?
Oh, we'll get to that.
Uh-huh.
Should I drop the knowledge?
Let's drop the general knowledge
Okay.
first. Where dost thou live, spider?
Underwater.
Yes, underwater in Europe and in Asia.
Did you like my spider impression?
It was really deep. I would imagine tiny little vocal cords being way higher pitched.
I can't do that. You should speed up my voice instead in the editing.
It lives in Europe and Asia, in streams and rivers. It's a freshwater spider.
Okay.
So, if that needed to be said, I don't think there's a saltwater spider, except for, things that are called spider, but not.
The amazing things that the spider can do knowing that, I wouldn't put it past it to live in salt water.
It doesn't like it.
Like, why?
Maybe
the
it
heck
could,
not?
but it just doesn't want to. You know?
I actually have a theory why not, but we'll get to that.
I think you're probably right about that. It lives for about 2 years in captivity, so we don't know how long it lives in the wild because things eat it.
It's pretty long-lived for
A spider?
a small insectoid-like
Yeah.
creature.
Yeah. And in terms of size, they range in size like crazy. So you can be like smaller than a dime or larger than a $50. Because $50 is a timely reference for you to imagine.
But I can't think of a poker chip.
Yeah.
There we go.
So it ranges in size, but in terms of size, there's a lot of sexual dimorphism.
Ooh, what does that mean?
Okay, so sexual dimorphism is a difference between a male and a female of a species.
Okay.
So men and women that are humans, men are typically larger and have stronger upper bodies. That's sexual dimorphism in humans.
So it's only physical characteristics.
They don't. I mean, nobody. No, despite what we said at the top, nobody can actually ask them about their, emotional characteristics.
Oh, like behavior.
Yeah. No, there is some differences in behavior.
But does that...
Dimorphism is morph, their body.
Okay.
Their form.
Of course you can't. One just likes to go hunting. Just that's their thing, and the other one just likes to accessorize their bubble.
Well...
Dropping some foreknowledge there.
Technically, the reason that the males... Okay, did I tell you what the thing was? Males are larger.
Yeah.
And
which is odd for spiders.
For spiders, yeah. Normally, females are larger than males.
Mm-hmm.
For example, the black widow, is named that because she kills and eats the male after copulation.
You probably wouldn't even recognize a male black widow because they don't look anything like the actual widow.
But in this case, the males are larger. And they think that is because males are more active hunters than women, than females.
Sure, yeah.
So they're in and out of the water a lot. Whereas females just stay in one spot. More on that later. The males will be in and out of the water, so they have to be able to fight against their own buoyancy, and they have to fight against the surface tension of the water. Especially when you get down into small creatures,
mm-hmm.
surface tension is hard to break.
It's a huge barrier.
So, if you ever seen an ant just sitting on top of the water, it's because he's not breaking the surface tension.
He can't get down underneath.
He literally can't get down underneath, and that's why if you ever seen ants clump up together when they're in water, you can push down on them. It's like they've made a raft that doesn't break the surface tension. And you can look up videos of that, and it's pretty interesting.
Still wouldn't want to touch a clump of ants. That sounds horrifying.
Yeah, probably not. I saw someone do it with a
stick.
Tool.
Okay.
So males are larger and stronger, so they can break that surface tension more often. In terms of prey, this is what was getting me, because it was like, what is there for a spider to eat underwater? There's no flies buzzing around. There's huge fish. Things that probably are not good for a spider to be around.
Like a carp.
Yeah. You can't carpe any diem when you are a tiny little spider fighting against a carp.
There are no diems in which you can carpe a carp. There you go.
Yeah. But then I forgot about something. A little something that the science community likes to call larva. They like to eat mosquito larva, which lives in the water. If you ever leave like a frisbee upside down outside in Florida with some water in it, you're just making some mosquitoes. Thanks for that. Flip that frisbee upside down.
Yeah, abandoned swing sets, old tires.
Uh-huh.
Just mosquito breeding grounds. But these guys live in rivers, don't they? Rivers are constantly moving.
Some are slower than others, and then also there may be puddles on the edge of streams and stuff.
Oh, that's true. They do have those reed areas
Yeah.
that have water that doesn't flow as quickly.
Right. But they also eat small crustaceans. Crustaceans.
They're
for the
little
common man.
freshwater shrimp I saw them eating.
Yeah. And then probably, like, you'll probably take a minnow down. You know, those small tiny
fish, yeah.
And then other water insects. So that's what they eat. And then their bite and venom, if it bit you, it wouldn't kill you. But it would not be a fun time.
Like most spiders.
Yeah.
Turns out that most spiders are not deadly. Even the black widow is not necessarily deadly depending on who you are.
Even a brown recluse.
Like, if you're a child, a skinny, emaciated child, then you might die
Or
from
a regular child.
Or even, I think you're more predisposed to it if you're skinny.
Probably, but if you're a regular child who has a good meal 3 times a day, you still might die from a black widow.
Okay.
Don't mess around with black widows.
Right. Don't mess around with... I'm not saying mess around with black
if you're
widows,
old, also, try to avoid it. If you're any human at all, probably not a fun time.
No, you're not going to have a good time at all.
But then also, yeah, brown recluse. It causes necrosis in the skin, but it doesn't kill you. It's not a fun time.
No.
But this is just painful. But it could also cause a fever.
Which could kill you.
I guess, in certain situations.
I thought you were going to say circumstances. You're just Porky the Pygmy. Where you say, like, you try to say something and you can't, and then you just say something else instead. You give up.
Yeah, I guess. I was mixing up scenarios and situations.
Oh, okay.
So I just chose one.
Got it. So that's probably the only interesting thing about this spider, huh?
Yeah, well, you know, except for it lives underwater. How could that be? I will tell you this. Little hint for the listener as to what's coming. They breathe air.
Ooh.
They're like other spiders. They don't breathe underwater.
You don't really think of insects and
Except for they do
spiders
breathe.
breathing.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, you don't think that. But they do.
They have lungs.
They need oxygen.
Yeah, oxygen, definitely. So this is called the diving bell spider.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Not for nothing. It was said that Alexander the Great was the first person to go down in a diving bell, where you just take this giant metal bell and you kind of place it perpendicular to the water and drop it so that it captures as much air as possible, and the diver can be underneath there and go grab some air and go diving for sunken treasure or whatever he wants.
You know where I bet it's dark? In a diving bell.
You didn't even let me answer.
It would be better if the diving bell was clear.
Yeah, if somehow you could create some sort of silk netting to trap air instead of a big metal bell.
Oh, what?
Yeah. You know what spiders are good at making is silk. And that's
linens and things.
That's exactly... linens and things?
Like a nice pair of silk pants. Or trousers for the UK listeners.
That's true. We don't want to...
maybe don't exist.
We don't want to exclude our friends across the pond.
Yes.
But if you're
I suppose they could make silk underwear.
If you were in a pond...
They probably can.
In Europe, you'd probably find one of these dudes making a diving bell.
Uh-huh.
And...
How, pray tell?
So what they do is they go underwater, and rather than like try to capture a bunch of air and then bring it down with them all at the same time, they just kind of build this silk netting between 2 reeds or underwater plants, and then they go up to the surface and they stick their butts up to the surface, their abdomens.
Uh-huh.
That's why they're not insects. They only have the head/thorax and the abdomen, 2 parts instead of 3, which other insects have.
Yeah, so they've got hydrophobic hairs on the abdomen part.
Right, and that hydrophobic means what you think
scared
it
of
means.
water.
Scared of water. I'm not gonna go there. But that acts to trap a bunch of air around the abdomen. Did you say thorax?
No.
Yeah, abdomen. So it'll stick its abdomen up into the surface, and then it'll bring it back down. So now it has this bubble of air around its abdomen, and it'll travel back down via like silk threads that it's like anchored up to the surface. Go back down to
so
its,
it doesn't have to
netting.
basically swim all the time.
No, it's not. It almost never swims. It mostly, even when it's hunting, it goes along these lines that it's threaded out there. Plus, that's how it knows that something's out there. Just like any other spider, it waits to feel the vibrations on its thread.
I would think the current would like give them false positives all the time.
But there's erratic movement of things
So you
that
can
it can
feel
detect.
like panic.
Yeah. Like, oh, this is tugging. Just like when you're fishing. And so it'll take its covered abdomen down to underneath its little silk netting, and it'll just deposit it and make a bunch of trips that way and eventually create this big bubble of air for it to live in. And then it doesn't ever have to leave the water.
Crazy. When I first saw the pictures of this, I imagined like it would make a silk netting of sorts and then just kind of drop it underwater somehow.
That's what I thought.
Like a diving bell.
And that's just how it would hunt sometimes. That's what I thought. It was like a temporary thing that's where it found its main source of food, was to go down in the water every once in a while. But no, this is its home. And it just lives in this bubble between these two plants forever.
And it continually replenishes the air?
Well, here's the crazy thing that they can't figure out. One is exactly what the silk is made out of. They still don't know exactly what spider silk is made out of. It's proteins that come apart but then reassemble like a Jacob's ladder or something like that. One of those toys that like you can pull them apart, but they like as though they were a liquid. But then when they all string together when they're pushed through the rectum, the spinneret, I think is what it's called. So when they're pushed through that, it actually like aligns the proteins so they link together. But this has a special like hydrogel that allows it to trap air, but at the same time, it allows oxygen from the water to get into the bubble, to like diffuse into the bubble. The rest of the elements that are part of the water, like hydrogen, and whatever else is in the water, like the sediment and fish pee, that does not go into the bubble, but the oxygen does. And then carbon dioxide that the spider releases, like any other breathing animal, is diffused out of the bubble.
What?
So
can we even do that?
No, that sounds like technology we need to get on. But
we could use that for space.
Yeah. No, we can't. Because this is in an area...
That idea.
Because oxygen is coming from the outside environment into the contained area. There's nothing in space to help you out there.
Well, I meant like on Mars.
Okay, yeah. But I don't know if you could even get enough oxygen.
Right.
Because water, especially fresh water, which is why I'm thinking that they're only in fresh water. Fresh water is exceptionally oxygen rich, where like warm salt water isn't. Cold salt water is, but I don't think an arachnid can live in cold salt water.
That's the reason you thought that they don't live in the salt water and they can't?
Yeah, because it needs to be oxygen rich water, otherwise they're going to suffocate.
I was thinking because the buoyancy of the bubble would be too buoyant in salt water.
You know what? That you make a good point there. You are much more buoyant in salt water than you are in fresh water. Mm-hmm. So they would have to evolve to be stronger if they wanted to be in salt water. And maybe there's something that the salinity does to them or whatever.
Yeah, there's lots of reasons that freshwater thing can't be in salt water.
There's a lot of reasons why salt
water... Because it burns my eyes.
And I have 8 of them. I'm a spider.
Yeah, in this situation.
So the problem with this like gas recycling issue is that it also phases out nitrogen. So eventually the spider runs out of nitrogen, and it needs nitrogen just as much as we do because our atmosphere is like 71% nitrogen. Mm-hmm. So that's why it needs to...
a flaw in your nigh perfect bubble.
It's like, oh man, if only I designed this thing to diffuse nitrogen. I got to go back to the plans.
Back to the drawing board.
Just a spider with a little blue architecture like document trying to draw, like erasing things and drawing it back with a big nitrogen symbol over it. So yeah, it has to replenish about once a day, which isn't bad. I mean, you can live underwater and all you have to do is swim once a day to replenish all your air.
Not even swim.
Yeah,
crawl along
just kind of free dive.
line.
It's actually it's more like free diving where they you just go along a line. So they'll live mostly in their bell, which is what it's called scientifically, not just a bubble. Because it isn't just a bubble, because it does let oxygen in and carbon dioxide out. They'll pretty much stay in there all the time to stay away from hunters, both above the water and in the water, because they just look and see a bubble and they keep going.
Right.
But they'll also mate in this bubble. So, like you said, females tend to stay in their bubble more.
There's a joke here about, getting out.
Breaking out of your bubble.
Yeah. A male I need my space. Get out of my bubble.
But the male's like, no, I'm going to construct a bubble right next to you and tunnel into yours so
Really?
that we can mate. That's what they do.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they actually spin a special web, a special tunnel from their bubble, their bell into the females. And then they mate, and then the female lays her eggs in her bell, and then they hatch underwater.
Okay.
So this thing can spend its entire life underwater.
Well, imagine if she rejects your advances. It's like, I built this. I went up to the surface 10 times.
And
I built it right here. I tunneled a bubble. I tunneled through a bubble.
Maybe he makes a remedial one. He's got home base.
Right.
But he's just all right, this is my home away from home. This is my motel.
He's got a bubble in Palm Springs.
This is summer bubble. This is his Motel 6.
Well, to that point, they do have a smaller bubble, which I call the cheese, because it's just a baby bell.
Oh my god. You didn't just think of that, did you?
Yes, I did.
Nice.
It is a small... That's all true. It is...
And it's all true. But that's it.
It is a smaller bubble. Males, spend more of their time hunting more aggressively or more actively. So, whereas the female, stays in the bubble more.
So he'll need to go and visit the cheese every once in a while.
Yeah.
To go hunting.
He doesn't have to spend that much time there.
Okay.
So he's not using up... oxygen, I guess.
He's got rewards points. So another really interesting thing about these spiders is that most spiders just have kind of slits, which are lungs in their abdomen, they're called book lungs. They kind of just look like sheets of paper, kind of crinkled up like an old book, stacked on top of each other, and that's how they breathe. Which is crazy. They don't breathe out of their mouths. They breathe out of their abdomens. But the diving bell spider has holes in its exoskeleton which are semi-permeable and allow oxygen to get directly into its tissue, in its exoskeleton. So all it has to do is just poke its little behind up back into its bell, and it's breathing, and then it goes back.
Huh.
So its head never has to leave the water.
Gonna have some pruny fingers.
Yeah. Except unless you had an exoskeleton. Then you wouldn't have any prunes.
Luckily.
Plus you're a spider. Prunes are huge. To you.
Who taught them this? That's what I want to know. If you think that... even if you subscribe to the Kynes theory, which is that it's microevolution, which is there was, a series of family group parents, and from them came all the rest of the species in that family. How would one spider just figure out how to do this?
I don't know. I feel necessity would drive a species of spiders, or a group of a species of spiders, to have to hunt underwater or die.
Right. After
repeated trips swimming around underwater, eventually one decides to try to build a net underwater to catch things or just to anchor itself. And then a bubble, maybe natural bubbles, form underneath it. And then...
I would imagine something it starts to favor reeds, that are submerged in water halfway, but half of them are above water. So it, finds that flies buzz around the side of a lake or a stream or something. So it starts there and then finds that there's larva on the surface and starts, goes. So like it's a thing that they're already kind of near it, and then it just like develops into.
But how do they
do the bubble thing? I have no idea. How do they figure that out?
And when you watch them do it, it's so mechanical. It's just their job, like they're bees. They go up to the surface, they stick their butts up, it becomes like this bubble around their abdomen. They go back down, they deposit it into their bubble, and they do that like 5 times in a row, and then they go and they hide up in there. And then what? I
mean, it's not even just like the knowledge of it. It's the instinct to do it. It's the fact that they also have, the hydrophobic hairs, and they can absorb oxygen through their exoskeleton. So like they have so many different things about them that allows them to do this.
It's almost as if they were designed.
Yeah.
So another interesting thing about them is that they go and they kill their prey when they go hunting, and then they pretty much kill it immediately, and they bring it back to the bubble. They'll usually go and make several more trips to enlarge their bubble to allow them and their prey to be in there. Because instead of spinning up their prey like other spiders do, and then injecting their venom, which turns their prey into like this mush, and then kind of drinking it like a coconut smoothie,
right? As you would want
with
to
a little tiny umbrella, spider umbrella, and
made of silk.
Yeah. They'll just kind of spew their venom all over it in their bubble, which it's not venom, it's just digestive juices, which break it down, and then they drink that.
Enzymes of sorts.
Yeah. So they kill their prey, they go and they enlarge their bubble, they bring their prey into the bubble, and then they kind of like throw up all over it, and then drink it. And then they're good. That's their chow time.
Gross.
Last thing before we sign off is that Argyroneta, which is its genus, is taken from argyros, which is silver in Latin, and then neta, which is apparently a neologism, which is coining a new term for spinner. So silver spinner. And then aquatica, which you did it. And that's all I got. Oh, also, if they're in a low oxygen environment, they can enlarge their bells and willingly choose to live in to tolerate lower levels of oxygen, so they can kind of like shut down some of their systems so they don't need as much.
We need that for space too.
Yeah, got to learn that. We got to learn from these guys. They know what they're doing. Semi-permeable gaseous bubbles.
I'm all about it.
Game changer. So, that's all we got on the diving bell spider. So, until next time, this has been Life, Death, and Taxonomy.
I'm telling you, I saw an orangutan out here. It was right around this area.
There's no way. Orangutans are native to the forests of Borneo and Sumatra in Indonesia and Malaysia.
I mean, I know that, and you know that, and the listener knows that, but this orangutan doesn't seem to know that.
Well, there's nothing here, so...
Listen, let's just sit here by this fire and wait to see if it shows up.
Fine. But while we're here, we might as well tell the listener to subscribe to Life, Death, and Taxonomy to get all of their interesting animal info on their devices on the go.
I suppose. And we should also tell them that leaving a review can help let others know to check us out. But there's no time for that now. Look!
I don't believe it. That's an orangutan.
What did I tell you? Didn't I tell you?
Wait a minute. It's looking right at us. You know, they're about 7 times stronger than the average man.
Well, I know that, and you know that.
Let's just get out of here.
That's a good idea.